Chapter 14. What if he actually is, though? I whispered to Will. We were in his smelly bedroom because Will said my Rainbow Cats poster made his eyes hurt. Watching a video about Northern Lights. Will was only half watching, twisting his puzzle cube around and around and trying to work out the best combinations. He isn't, he replied, as if that was the end of the conversation. I couldn't leave it alone, but Will, look at all the clues. The reindeer, the post, the way he knows about the Arctic. Will sighed and resumed doing his puzzling. I know, Harps, I know. So, I prompted, what other explanation is there? Will gave a huge sigh. Oh, I don't know, but it can't possibly be true. It's childish to even think it. Plus, if I decided I did believe that our new stepdad is Santa, and then he turns out not to be, Will shrugged. The disappointment would be just too much right now. I realised something, because you're already disappointed in Henry. Will's fingers slipped on the smooth edge of his puzzle. Yeah. What did he do? It's nothing he said, just his behaviour, really. I thought he was nice. He is, most of the time. Will completed his puzzle and held it up to the light as if he was trying to see through it. I could tell that he didn't want to say anything else, so I just squeezed his arm. Will wasn't in the mood for talking the next day. He was endlessly playing practice rounds of Puzzle Cube in preparation for the big competition at the weekend. Even the new PlayStation sat forgotten as he twisted and rearranged the pieces of cube over and over, so fast that it made my eyes blur just to watch him. Once a year, people from all over the country who liked the 1970s cubes would get together for a tournament, and Will had entered a time trial to try to win £1,000. He didn't fancy his chances, as there were people who'd been playing the cubes for 50 years. But the runner-up prizes were good as well, though. You'll strain your fingers, Mum said half-heartedly, as Will kept one eye on his tablet and one hand on his cube during the dinner table. She didn't like to complain too much. It was unusual for Will to be this distracted, and she knew this competition obviously meant a lot to him. Where did you get that anyway? Nick asked, peering at it. I found it at a jumble sale, Will said proudly as he twisted the cube. They haven't made them for ages. Ah, Nick looked sort of amused as he went back to his food. It's wonderful how you can always discover something new, even if the new thing is actually something old. Will gave a sideways sort of smile. At bedtime, Mum confiscated the cube and the tablet, saying Will needed his sleep. Look, if you fall asleep during the competition, she said, smiling, what would happen? He pulled a face, but didn't argue. The contest meant more to him than Christmas. The next day was wet from overnight rain, and the air was thick and soupy, like we were due a good thunderstorm. I was glad it was Friday. I wanted the weekend off from sheep practice. Will and I were walking home. Will had managed to cajole Mum into letting him take his cube to school in his bag. I think he liked knowing that he had it with him, like a sort of lucky charm. Ahead of us, walking on his own, was Henry. I glared at the back of his headphone-wearing head. I wasn't sure what he'd done to upset my brother, but he was now Harper's enemy number one. Will wasn't glaring, though. He just looked a bit sad. Henry pulled his phone out of his pocket. As he got close to the edge of the pavement, he glanced up and made to cross over the road, stepping straight out into the road. I didn't really see what happened. I felt rather than saw. Will shoved past me and run into the road. I heard the scream of the car brakes. A thud and a gasp from other people on the pavement, and a yell as something soft hit the ground. About 1 second had passed. I blinked to see Will and Henry sprawled in the middle of the road. I was frozen in place, wanting to run over, but unable to make my legs work, and then the boys moved. They slowly got to their feet, with skinned hands and ripped trousers, but otherwise unharmed. The car that would have hit Henry had stopped a few meters ahead of them. The driver, white as a sheet, opened his door and stepped out. Where the car had braked so hard, it had flattened and torn a mess off of Will's school bag. He must have dropped it when he pushed Henry out of the way. My brain froze. Will! He raised a hand to me. He was okay. He helped Henry, who looked as if he was in shock, over to the other side of the road. His headphones were still playing loudly. I couldn't hear the beat in the silence of the aftermath. Henry gawped at my brother. You just got... His eyes drifted to Will's destroyed backpack. Oh no, Will! Will tore himself away from Henry and darted to his bag. The whole thing had been steamrollered. He picked it up and hunted through it, searching desperately, and drew out his beloved puzzle cube. The car had driven straight over it. The middle was completely crushed, the edges bulging with clogs and cogs and broken plastic, like the cube was a sandwich that someone had pressed their hand down and was making all the fillings spill out on. It was well and truly broken. Will, I'm really sorry, Henry said. I should have looked where I was going. Not your fault. Will just stared at his ruined toy. It's okay. Maybe it can be fixed. Henry looked doubtful at the smashed puzzle. It's okay, Will said again, in a hollow sort of voice. I'm just glad that it wasn't you that got flattened. He looked into Henry's face. Henry went red. Come on, Harps, he said to me. And I followed him up the road, carrying what was left of his bag, as Will cradled his broken puzzle in his hand.